Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business of Security podcast. I'm your host, Lawrence Snow. This is the podcast for protective services professionals who want to know how social media can work for their business. The Business of Security podcast is brought to you by the International Security Driver Association, the association that serves the corporate protective services community with an emphasis on security driving and secure transportation by helping its members succeed through education, networking, mentorship, and marketing programs. For more information, visit isdacenter.org, isdacenter.org. In this episode, I'll answer an email from a podcast listener, where I'm heading this week and why, and share my thoughts on exceeding expectations. So how was your Thanksgiving here in the U.S.? I hope it was great. And are you getting tired of the leftovers yet? And I can't believe it's December already. It's time to switch gears, get into the holiday shopping mode. I'm such a procrastinator when it comes to shopping. Have you seen the Dunkin' Donuts commercial? He's standing in line, and the woman asks him, have you gotten your shopping done yet? And the guy says he's waiting for inspiration. Yeah, that's me. All right, on with the show. First up, the email I received last week from Chris Kirkland, and I'm just going to read it verbatim. I'm a subscriber to your podcast, which I find extremely informative for the industry. My question is in regards to your opinions related to EP websites and training. According to your personal opinion, you stated that a black website feels like you are hiding something. Is there a website that you can refer me to that you admire in the EP industry? Also, you talked about mentioning training that someone has received on their website. Can you suggest how would someone go by mentioning their training on their site or resume? Should you use the title Executive Protection Specialist, Personal Protection Specialist, or Bodyguard? Is there a list of training schools you can recommend? And this was my reply to Chris. I did send him an email for this podcast, so I'm just going to share it to you because I think you'll get something out of it. Thanks for listening to the podcast and the positive feedback, Chris. I really appreciate it. The black background is not just my personal opinion, but also psychologists who study the effect of color. If you look at Wikipedia and search for color psychology, black isn't all bad when used properly. And yes, it can be used to show sophistication, but having a black background with gray, white, yellow text on a website is not the way to go. Use black to bring emphasis or highlight a particular content or a particular area on your website. You have just a few seconds to impress a visitor to your website so that he or she stays longer and reads about your services. Where you are located, contact information, all the great things that your website has to offer. If it looks like a 5-year-old made your website, what does it say about you and your brand? And how quickly do you think that visitor is going to leave your website? As far as a website I'd recommend is smk-risk.com. smk-risk.com as one you should look at. As far as titles, use the one that you have been trained to. You can't be a specialist unless you've been trained. Educate your market on what you have been trained in on your website. What does it mean to them? You can have all the fancy titles in the world, but unless your market knows what all 3- and 4-letter acronyms in your profile mean, chances of you getting hired by that market are pretty slim. I don't recommend schools other than Vehicle Dynamics Institute because I know them, I trust them, I've been trained by them, and they train you to meet what the market demands. For more information, go to vehicledynamics.com. Trust me when I say they are not just an advanced driving school, as some might think. They really do more EP than most EP schools. So go check them out. For other EP schools, man, you got to do your due diligence. Caveat emptor here, buyer beware. Schools are expensive, so choose wisely. Know what market you want to work in. Find the right school that will get you closer to your professional goals. Lastly, Have a realistic expectations in getting a job after getting your certificate of completion. You're not going to go in one day as a welder and 7 days later come out as an executive protection specialist with no experience and then go and get a job. It's just not going to happen. I want to thank Chris for the great questions. And if you have any questions about marketing, social media, website design, or comments about the podcast, please send me an email at lawrence.snow@gmail.com or call the podcast phone line at area code 781-369-5185. So where the heck am I going this week and why? Well, I'll be heading to Las Vegas for the International Executive Protection and Secure Transportation Conference. The conference, I guess it's formerly known as EPIC, or some people still use it as EPIC. The conference is jointly hosted by EPI, Executive Protection Institute, and ESI, Executive Security International. It is held yearly and focuses on the critical issues that are confronting security professionals worldwide. This is the first year that I'm attending, and I'm attending this year because the conference has lined up a few great can't-miss speakers, like Joe Autera, who's the president and CEO of Vehicle Dynamics Institute, Filippo Marino, he's the director, Executive Protection and Intelligence, Executive Protection and Intelligence, I can't get that word right, Executive Protection and Intelligence, McDonald's Corporation, and Richard Woods, Microsoft Global Security Department, to name a few. I'm also attending to network and to really talk about the issues from the guys and gals that do, not from those that pretend to do. I'll have a full wrap-up probably in 2 weeks or so. I'll do a wrap-up podcast. And if you like more information on the conference, you can go to internationalepconference.com. And I know this is short notice, but the conference dates are December 5th to the 7th. I'm sure that if you showed up at the Tuscany Hotel in Las Vegas and headed for the EPIC conference, I'm sure they'll have door registrations if you're in the area. All right, next up is the main topic for this podcast, and it is exceeding expectations. When I first began my career within the corporate world, I was introduced to performance appraisals, something that I was completely foreign to, never had them before. So during the year, I was empowered, that fit into the guidelines of what my business unit was doing, to set goals and milestones, and was appraised on how well I achieved those goals and if you played nice with others in the sandbox. The appraisal was then matched up into one of 4 categories, and I don't know why they would create them in this way, but they did. But they're called, and I think they've since then this particular company has done away with these categories because it was too cut and dry. But anyway, back then the 4 categories were needs improvement, so that's an N, proficient, that would be a P, outstanding, O, or E, exceeding expectations. So if you rearrange these letters a little bit, the categories formed the acronym NOPE, N-O-P-E, which was the common phrase you would hear in the break areas describing that they didn't get the raise they wanted, right? I think that's kind of why they changed the letters into just, I don't even know what they changed it to, averages? I'm not really sure. It doesn't matter now, but I did attain the E mark several times. Not only were my goals met, milestones accomplished, but I also consistently volunteered to help my team. I took on extra work, stayed late from time to time, went above and beyond of what was required of me. I went that extra mile. Now listen, it wasn't out of ambition. It wasn't about getting attention or brown-nosing or whatever term they use these days. It was simply because I loved my job. I had a passion for what I did and a strong interest in helping those who needed help. I didn't think to myself, wow, this is going to get me an E this year. I put in the extra effort for no other reward than my own. But here's the thing about exceeding expectations on a consistent basis. You get noticed. You might get a promotion. You might get a chance on the lead detail. You are given more challenging tasks. You get the phone calls as a business, and you might just get a constant paycheck. Colleagues and peers will remember your name and number and put it on their go-to list. Those that are not exceeding expectations are sitting around waiting for the phone to ring, out drinking the night before detail. You've seen these Facebook posts complaining about their last gig, posting on Twitter that their dogs are tired, quote unquote, and they can't wait to sleep, showing pictures of a large beer, sitting down, lounging around. Trust me when I say this, that there is no real secret sauce to being successful in this business. The reality is, graduating from a 5 or 7 day EP school does not mean a guarantee of success. There are no clients waiting at the exit door of the school. You have to hustle. You have to make sacrifices. You have to set business goals, personal goals, create and maintain a business plan, and continuously train, both mentally and physically, and go that extra mile. Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, which, by the way, I highly recommend, writes about going the extra mile and breaks it down into this rather simple, what he calls the QQMA formula. So the QQMA formula breaks down like this: the quantity of the service you render plus the quality, those are the two Qs, of the service you render, plus the mental attitude, the M, in which you render service determines the space you occupy within your chosen calling and the compensation you get for your services. So Q plus MA will determine the space you occupy within your chosen calling and the compensation that you get. So here's a question I want you to honestly ask yourself. Are you a needs improvement, going back to the NOPE, are you a needs improvement, proficient, outstanding, or exceeding expectations in your personal and professional life? Are you exceeding expectations in all that you do? There's a great poem, very poignant, that I actually mentioned in my branding and marketing ebook that I think is a must read for any business owner. It's called The Man, or any professional. It's called The Man in the Glass, and it was written by Peter Dale Wimbrow Sr. And there are a couple of phrases in here that you should take away. When you get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world makes you king for a day, just go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what the man has to say. For it isn't your father or mother or wife whose judgment upon you must pass. The fellow whose verdict counts most in your life is the one staring back from the glass. He's the fellow to please. Never mind all the rest. For he's with you, clear to the end, and you've passed your most difficult, dangerous test. If the man in the glass is your friend, you may fool the whole world down the pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass, but your final reward will be heartache and tears if you cheated the man in the glass. That's all for this week. I want to thank you all for listening sincerely from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate the comments that I've been getting, the shares, the likes on Facebook and Twitter and those places. And if you are attending the EPIC conference this week, I know it's short time frame here. It's this week. It's only a couple days out. But if you are attending, give me a shout out on Twitter at Lawrence A. Snow, and let's meet up at the conference. And I'll see you in the next episode.